All is on. Thank you all for joining. My name is Marcia Jean-Baptiste. I'm with CMHC. I'm part of our outreach and project development team. And I'm really pleased to be joining this online learning event and to talk to you today a little bit about affordable housing, in particular, the investment into existing affordable housing to preserve, repair, and renew existing units. I'm coming to you today from Vancouver, and I'd like to take a moment to respectfully acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Today, Canada faces several challenges with respect to the supply of affordable housing. We all understand that maintaining and building on the current stock of affordable housing units is crucial in meeting the basic housing needs of key priority populations, including many vulnerable Canadians. So today we'll focus on the key programs available from CMHC and the National Housing Strategy that can be used to preserve, repair, and renew the existing stock of affordable housing units in Canada. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I'm joined by two of my esteemed colleagues today, Olga Baranova and Lance Jakubek. They might jump in with additional points if I miss any, or they're going to help with the Q&A portion. So just don't be alarmed if my voice suddenly changes during the presentation today. So first, I'd like to just take a little moment to remind you of our 2030 aspiration. If you haven't heard of it yet, it is that by 2030, everyone in Canada has a home that they can afford and that meets their needs. And the biggest way that we're going to be able to accomplish that is through our own suite of CMHC programs, along with the National Housing Strategy that was launched back in 2017. Under the National Housing Strategy, a variety of time-sensitive programs are offered to create new affordable housing and preserve, repair, and renew existing units. As you are well aware, affordable housing provides an important source of shelter for Canada's priority populations. These populations include women and children fleeing family violence, low-income seniors, Indigenous peoples, peoples with disabilities, those dealing with mental health and addictions, as well as veterans and young adults. We often talk about new construction. However, through renovation and revitalization, we can prevent the deterioration and loss of existing units, maintain the health and safety of units and projects. We can take the opportunity to modernize features and amenities, and in modernizing, we can also enhance accessibility and energy efficiency, and ultimately help to address the core housing needs of our communities. So in addition to the creation of new units, the National Housing Strategy provides funding for the repair or renovating of existing affordable housing units or units that will be converted to affordable housing. The presentation today will touch on CMHC seed funding program that can now be applied to help offset some of the costs of the planning and pre-repair activities. And we'll focus a bit more on the National Housing Co-Investment Fund, we'll just call the Co-Investment Fund from here on, which is available for the revitalization of existing affordable housing units and projects. We'll review some of the process enhancements that have been implemented, and we'll also cover a few flexibilities that are offered for the repair and renewal stream. And lastly, we will highlight our new mortgage loan insurance product called MLI Select. So MLI for Mortgage Loan Insurance and Select, which offers greater flexibilities for the financing of affordable, energy efficient, and accessible multi-unit housing. I just want to take a moment to distinguish between some of these programs. The co-investment and seed funding programs involve direct funding that's administered by CMHC to a proponent of either affordable housing, whether it be through a loan or a contribution. Whereas the mortgage loan insurance, on the other hand, is a program that enables lenders, so your regular banking facilities, to offer greater flexibility, including larger loans on the financing they offer to proponents of affordable housing. So two different kind of categories of programs there. One key thing to remember is that projects that qualify for one program could still be eligible for another. For example, if someone applies for a seed, they could apply for co-investment. They actually work very well together. However, each program has to be, an application has to be submitted on its own merits. So just because you get approved, say for seed funding, doesn't always mean that you will get approved for the co-investment. So they have to adhere to each eligibility criteria for each program. So let's get a little bit into the seed and preservation funding. So seed funding can provide non-repayable contributions and or interest-free loans to assist with the planning costs of building a new affordable housing project or the repair and revitalization of an existing housing project, an existing affordable housing project, that is. It can also provide contributions to help preserve existing community housing projects that were that are or were under a federal agreement. Not all, but some of the activities supported by SEED are indicated on the slide here. These are important steps in preparing a project for application to, say, for example, the co-investment fund, which are really designed to work together. Where seed funding was primarily designed to cover soft costs of new construction projects or the preservation of community housing projects, we now are seeing a flexibility allowed to make that seed funding can be applied to the soft costs of an existing affordable housing project in need of repair and renewal. So one thing to remember, the difference between seed and preservation, the preservation really is geared towards those community housing projects that are or were under a federal agreement. And then again, the seed is now eligible for new construction or the repair of affordable housing units. So we're not going to get too deep into the contributions and the loans, but just to give a bit of information here in case you don't know, the seed funding does come into two different forms. So it could be either contribution and or an interest-free loan. So for the contributions, there are different sectors that are eligible for different amounts. So for example, co-ops, nonprofits, or indigenous groups are eligible for up to 40% of the total approved funding as a contribution, which could be up to a maximum of $150,000. Difference there being, say, for example, any other level of government is eligible for 30% and the private sector is eligible for 15%. When it comes to the loan, the interest-free loan can be up to $350,000. So this could be a total of up to $500,000 of funding from seed for, say, a co-op or a nonprofit organization. Up to $500,000 in terms of funding for seed for those organizations. So as I said, we're not going to go too deep in the weeds here, but just to give you an idea. And again, a reminder that seed now is also applicable for the repair, the soft cost for pre-repair of existing affordable housing units. So moving on to the repair and renewal stream of the co-investment fund, this is in place to support the repair and renewal of existing affordable housing units. Considerable funding is still available under this program. So CMHC would like to encourage applications and is meeting with a variety of audiences, including nonprofits and community housing proponents, co-ops and shelters to discuss the program and increase the awareness of the recent process enhancements and flexibilities offered. So this is why you're here today. You'll get a chance to hear some of those. So as a reminder, on the screen here, we're seeing your basic national housing strategy eligibility requirements having to do with partnerships, financial viability, affordability, energy efficiency, and accessibility. So in the terms of partnerships, as we always say, it's a co-investment. So there must be other investments coming from outside the federal government. So that could be other levels of government or private sector partners as well. They can take on different forms like concessions on property taxes or levies, waivers of development costs, and other things as well. But we just want to ensure, that there are other partnerships coming into play when we're talking about the co-investment fund. For financial viability, well, it's pretty clear. We want to make sure that these projects are financially viable and are going to be operational for the length of the term of the affordability. So of course, that needs to be shown at time of application. For affordability, the applicants must keep rents for a minimum of 30% of the units below 80% of the median market rental rate and commit for that for a minimum of 20 years. So as an example, The current median market rent in Vancouver for a 2-bedroom apartment is $1,720, so $1,720. That's the median market rent. So 80% of that would be $1,376. So that would have to be the maximum rent on a portion of the units that are being, let's say 2-bedroom units that are being rented in a project. So didn't really need to go all into the numbers, but just to give an example of what we're talking about here in terms of median market rent. For energy efficiency on repair and renewal, the projects must achieve a 25% decrease in energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions relative to the existing performance. So of course, that means there is going to have to be an assessment made prior to the repair, determine what kind of energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions are being used at the moment, and then make the improvements to make it better by at least 25% after the repairs have been made. And finally, for accessibility, a minimum 20% of all units within the project have to meet or exceed the accessibility standards. And the access to the project, as well as its common areas, must be barrier-free. So all of the applications for co-investments are scored based on these social outcomes. These are what we're trying to meet. It's not enough really to just meet the minimum requirements. We also want to exceed them. So it's really important that we recognize that and remember that it's not just a matter of meeting the minimum, but you definitely want to exceed them in order for the applications to go through smoothly and have a better chance of being approved. So those are your basics, backbone, national housing strategy, and we're going to see how some flexibilities can be applied to this in the next few slides. The features of the program offer attractive contribution and financing opportunities, which include low-cost loans. Currently, the rates range between 2.38 and 2.6. As well as deep financing flexibilities, such as longer amortization periods of up to 40 years. Loans can be up to 95% of the cost to repair or 85% of the value of the project. Low debt coverage ratios as low as 1.0, and forgivable loans through contributions of up to 40% of the project cost. So these are the things that also make the product attractive. And as mentioned before, of course, the extent of the flexibilities that we're going to look at in the next couple of slides will really depend on the features of the project surrounding the affordability, accessibility, and energy efficiency. Since the launch of this program, CMHC has made a significant effort to streamline and increase operational efficiencies of the co-investment fund processes in order to improve turnaround times and the client experience. In the past year, the program has implemented changes to reduce application turnaround times by 50%. So we've done this by taking in all the feedback that's been provided to us and implementing them over the years. So hopefully, if you've applied for co-investment in the past, you've seen how lengthy that can be. It's, admittedly, not the easiest thing to apply for. If you apply for it again in the future, hopefully you'll see a big difference in terms of the process, how quickly the turnaround times are. And when we say turnaround times, we mean from the time of application to the time an agreement is signed. We've improved, some of the information that we request. We're requesting a bit less information and also making it easier for you to access the viability assessment calculators and scoring grids, and made those that much easier to work with as well. So hopefully you'll notice a vast improvement in the application process for co-investment fund. And now talking about the flexibilities that are available under the rental repair and renewal stream, the flexibilities really are towards accessibility and energy efficiency. Of course, affordability, we're not really going to be too flexible on that. That's the main point of this whole business here. So to keep the affordable rates, the affordable housing affordable, but where we're able to make flexibilities on accessibility and energy efficiency is when we're dealing with small scale projects, projects that are requiring urgent repair, rural and northern housing, as well as shelters, transitional and supportive housing. So when we're talking about a small scale project, here we're looking at buildings that could be like walk-ups that don't have elevators. Properties that, yeah, pretty much a small unit. So we're not talking about big towering high rises here, but smaller projects. The other ones seem pretty straightforward. And then of course, urgent repair. Urgent repair means, it's something that's going to be detrimental to the residents' health and safety if it's not fixed quickly, or buildings or components that are near the end of their useful life. So a few examples of how these flexibilities come into play. So here's an example of a 48-unit building that was in need of urgent repair for decontamination. Landscaping needed to be done, exterior walls and foundation walls needed to be fixed, as well as doors and windows. And 5 of the units had to be completely redone due to mold. So this project here was not meeting the accessibility requirements. So there was an exception actually requested in terms of the accessibility and energy efficiency. But because it was deeply affordable and in need of an urgent repair, that exception was granted. So we were able to proceed with the co-investment fund under repair and renewal, make those exceptions on the accessibility and energy efficiency, because of the deep affordability, and be able to get this building repaired using the co-investment fund and save those affordable units. Another example here is a 75-unit co-op, which again was in need of urgent repairs. This project, when it was built, did not put in any accessibility features. However, because it is deeply affordable and the repairs that are needed are also going to implement energy efficiency requirements, so it will meet the energy efficiency eligibility requirements for the co-investment fund. Again, here an exception was, or flexibility was able to be made so that they could proceed with, again, the co-investment fund under repair and renewal, not meet the accessibility requirement, and yet still have access to those funds based on their affordability and energy efficiency. So the point here is, if you have in the past looked to apply for repair and renewal and found that you weren't able to meet those, all the requirements, especially those of energy efficiency and or accessibility, however, your unit meets the requirements or meets the eligibility for those flexibilities, please give us a call or try to resubmit. We may be able to entertain flexibilities and exceptions on those applications. So just a few tips to ensure a seamless application process. We want to ensure that we talk to the specialists as early in the process as possible. As mentioned, it's true, the application process, although has been streamlined to be much simpler, it can still take a while, to get all your ducks in a row, make sure you have all the proper documents and, are just going to be able to submit an application with 0 errors that's going to get, flown through the system in no time. So in order for that to happen, we recommend to give a call and have a conversation with one of our specialists as early as 18 to 24 months prior to the repair. That way you could have a better idea of what it is that you will need. We'll have a better idea of what your project is. Consider if there is room for flexibilities on some of the requirements there, and also just give you a better understanding of how the process will go. With that, speaking with a specialist, it's on the screen as well and probably all over our website, but they'll be able to also just give you a better idea of what documents you'll need in order to make your applications go through smoothly and quickly. So we're going to move on briefly here to the mortgage loan insurance portion, the MLI Select. As Canada's only provider of mortgage loan insurance for multi-unit residential properties, CMHC's multi-unit MLI is a commercial product that provides access to preferred interest rates and lowered borrowing costs for the construction, purchase, and refinance of residential properties, and facilitates renewals throughout the life of the mortgage. MLI Select is a product designed to drive deeper social outcomes while offering choice and flexibility, and is focused on affordability, accessibility, and climate compatibility. So as mentioned earlier, unlike seed and co-investment, this is an insurance product, so it's not direct lending from CMHC. So for this product, like all of our insurance products, a proponent will need to go through an approved lender to access the product. And it is the lender who actually submits the application to CMHC for the mortgage loan insurance. So MLI Select is designed to prioritize and incentivize affordability with a secondary priority of climate compatibility and a third priority of accessibility. So what that means is, of course, we want to keep affordability top in mind. That's number one. However, if a project also meets, or exceeds our energy efficiency and accessibility requirements, there are incentives to that. So for example, the premiums can be reduced. They'll be eligible for higher loan to value ratios, lower debt coverage ratios, longer amortization periods, and recourse and replacement reserve flexibilities. So, keeping in mind that, again, affordability is key. We can kind of play around a little bit with the accessibility and energy efficiency to have access to, for example, lower premiums and other incentives. The MLI Select is available at all multi-unit housing stages throughout the continuum, and we expect most uptake to be in affordable rental and market rental housing segments. But any of the portions of the housing continuum, as long as it's multi-unit housing, can benefit from the MLI Select product as well. So this slide is a little busy, and there's all these notes about it, but the big point here is that the reason we chose to include the product in the presentation is the refinance. It's what's circled on the screen. The refinancing of an existing multi-unit mortgage with CMHC, with CMHC's MLI Select, will allow for the funds to be used to repair or revitalize the existing units. So again, when we're looking at refinance, the funds have to be used to benefit the property. So in this case, you can refinance, use the MLI Select, have access to lower interest rates with the lender, depending on how affordable the units are going to be and how much the project will meet the outcomes of energy efficiency and accessibility. There's a scoring grid that will determine which premiums you'll be eligible for. So the premiums could be way lower. As you see, you can be eligible for higher loan to values, low DCRs, and extended amortization periods, depending again on where the project lands in its scoring on the affordability, energy efficiency, and accessibility. But again, the point being, a refinance project could be then, you could use this to repair and renovate an existing building through the refinance portion of the MLI Select. So more is coming. So we talked a little bit about some enhancements to the co-investment fund. There are more coming down the line. We also are looking at enhancing our programs to have a focus on nonprofits, co-ops, and Indigenous projects. We've made the process easier, but we're looking at making it even easier and quicker. So we are asking you all to stay tuned for those. We'll probably have some announcements coming up in the next, well, I don't want to get everyone excited. Let's say in the next months, so that when it comes in next weeks, we'll be all surprised, but they're coming soon. And with that, we will open it up to questions. No questions? I did such a fabulous job.
Folks are welcome to unmute themselves, pop it into the chat if you are feeling shy about having your voice in the recording. But any questions for the three folks here, they're happy to answer them for you.
And I know from the excitement of the federal budget announcements and some of the new programs that will be coming there, I guess quick answer is there's just going to be some that will be launched sooner than others. Others are commitments to develop the program. So we're also excited to see what's ahead with everything from future wave of the Rapid Housing Initiative coming back, which in previous involved both some dedicated fund towards certain municipalities as well as open calls for proposals, to that specific allocation for co-ops that we'll excited to see how that unfolds. So yes, a lot happening.
I also added one of the last links is the contact information for CMHC. So I do understand it might be a lot of information right now, but if you do want to discuss your project specifically with CMHC, I would be happy to be your first point of contact. I did put in the link to my colleague, Lauren Barkley, as she usually is the first point of contact at CMHC, and then she decides who can take over the relationship depending on the area where the project is located. But just to explain the process a bit, we do have a whole team dedicated to work directly with the clients. So whenever you are even at the brainstorming stage of your project, you might be years away from the actual repair. We're there to support you. We are there to have the conversations with you, to guide you through our programs, and even point out maybe some of the other projects that were recently announced that had some similarities with what you're trying to design. So please reach out, talk to us. We're there to support you. Email, phone calls, whichever format that works for you.
And also, if you have non-specific questions, like if you have a specific project that you want to talk to a specialist about, by all means, contact Olga and her team. But if you have general, just product questions, well, my information is on the screen. You can give me a call or send me an email as well.
We do have a quick question from Patrick in the chat, asking, I assume that BCA and energy study funding can be stacked with other sources? Question mark.
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I just missed
the.
Lance
answered it, but the question was, I assume that BCA and energy study funding can be stacked with other sources.
The quick answer to that is yes, and I'll give that with the little blinking caveat footnote. Always best to check in advance, and if there are stacking plans, we try to make it as easy as possible to stack with both other CMHC programs and external programs, but always best to raise stacking plans sooner rather than later in the conversation, just in case there's some criteria that may not necessarily match, or just in case timing considerations need to be thought out of, oh gee, this one approval process takes this long, this other one we need a response here. So I think the answer to almost all the questions is call us and we'll or chat with us, and we'll try to outline all opportunities and see how to make it fit.
And then a follow-up from Anna is it stackable with FCM planning and study grants?
Yes, and in fact, we welcome all other funding from other sources. It enables sort of a broader impact. So yes, but I'll also, if Marcia or Olga want to virtually kick me under the table and go, oh, no, that's not quite right, you can certainly please do that too.
Well, we've successfully stacked. We have a couple of projects that benefited from CMHC and FCM funding under the co-investment stream. So co-investment, we even have it in the name. We welcome co-funders to the project, and FCM, we've successfully partnered up with them, although they're relatively new. Absolutely. They do have a great program. From what we understand, they've designed a lot of the features from their program are based on and well aligned with the co-investment requirements. So by all means, we welcome our clients to work with multiple funders. As a matter of fact, we encourage that.
Awesome. I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. I want to say big thank you to everyone for presenting and for all the questions and engagement. There was lots going on in the chat box there for a while, and always good to learn and to connect with everyone.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you all for coming. It was nice to not be in an empty room.
Absolutely. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. I'm going to turn off the recording.
So.
Bye.